Hello everybody. My name is Michal. I'm tech lead in Vacuumlabs. First of all, I want to thank Andrej for his very optimistic and really nice story about Kotlin multi-platform. It was really inspiring. And now let's spiral deep down to fuck-ups of migrating to PNPM. First of all, what PNPM actually is. If you work with JavaScript, Node, or React, or something like that, do we have any JavaScript developers here? Raise your hands. Yeah, okay, nice. So there is a package manager for the rest of you who doesn't know. There is a package manager for dependencies in JavaScript, in Node, and in front-end frameworks. The original one was NPM, which has some minor flaws. It was replaced, or not replaced, but there was, or actually still is, alternative called Yarn, which has also some minor flaws. And quite the new one is PNPM. That stands for Performant NPM. And it tries to solve some problems of NPM and Yarn. For example, space efficiency and install times and stuff like that. So why to migrate to PNPM? Of course, according to official documentation. PNPM is or should be up to 2 times faster than alternatives. And you can see here in this table that when you don't have neither cache, log files, nor node modules, it's even more than 2 times faster. On the right, you have NPM, PNPM, and Yarn times. And in the table, you have the first line is without cache, without log files, log file without node modules, then with cache, with log file, with node modules, and so on. So you can see the comparison is pretty well. It looks really, really nice. Like the time is sometimes even more than 2 times faster. The next thing is efficiency. Files inside node modules are linked from a single content addressed storage. What this basically means is with Yarn or NPM, the packages or the dependencies are copy-pasted all over the place. Like in the modules you need them, there's multiple copies of the same thing, which PNPM tries to solve by using soft links and hard links in the node modules. Then there's monorepo support, which, according to official documentation, says that built-in support for multiple packages in repository. What does this mean is that every package has its own dependencies, which are separate from the dependencies of every other package in your monorepo. This ties to another upside or pro of PNPM, and that it creates a non-flat node modules by default. So code has no access to arbitrary packages. This means that every package is truly isolated. In Yarn, you can have like one dependency in one package, and it needs some peer dependency, which is solved in another package. And Yarn somehow does some magic, and it works. This cannot happen in PNPM. Like you have to truly specify every dependency you are using in the package you are using it in. There is no black magic in the underlying behavior of the package manager. This is a really nice package, really nice picture, which is stolen from the official documentation. And here you can see like what is the overall idea of PNPM. Why maintain separate dependencies when you can have a single copy of them? And how does this work? Is PM have a content addressable file store. This means that files can be retrieved based on content, not by file name. PNPM computes some kind of a hash for each file, and this means that if you want to save or add some dependency for something you already have dependency on, PNPM just creates an alias that it then uses for your package. So how can you install? Installation is quite straightforward. You can either directly download it from curl, wget, or IWR, or you can use Corpack since Node v16. You can use NPM or Homebrew on Mac or Scoop. So that's pretty straightforward. And there is one huge upside to PNPM, and that's like if you already have a project that works on Yarn or NPM, you don't want to build everything from the scratch, because as most of the JavaScript developers know, the dependencies and what kind of versions you have is really, really I would say nuanced. And one slight change can destroy whole dependency chain in JavaScript project. So there is a command in PNPM that is called import, and it parses your log files and creates a log file for PNPM that is used to install all the dependencies you need. So there is no slave labor to migrate to PNPM. So you might say, like, this is awesome. I will take it to my team. I will be hero to the common folk. My mother will cry with joy, and my father will finally be proud of me. That's not so easy. And just a simple note, this following section might trigger PTSD in someone. What is the inspiration for my project? We are deployed on Heroku. Heroku uses so-called slugs for building and deploying your application. And basically what it does is it downloads your code from Git, does some kind of magic, builds the app, calls some scripts and stuff like that to build the slug that is basically the result of the build or the what is actually running on the server. This slug has a hard limit of 500 megabytes, which we are constantly hitting. And that was the problem we faced. And we tried to find a lot of different approaches, like what we could change and what we could delete and stuff like that. We found some, but it was like some kind of short-term solution for us. So when I found PNPM, I thought to myself, we could finally get rid of yarn, which has pretty entangled and intertwined dependencies, and it would be a pain to separate our apps and deploy them separately. Like, my train of thought was only have backend on Heroku and migrate our 5 front-end apps on AWS or something like that. And to this PNPM, with its strictness to dependencies, it should help. And even with the, as I said, the PNPM import, which should be like painless. So let me have a sip. Let's import and install. I was kind of sure that that should work. Well, it didn't. PNPM has a really nice way of saying that something is wrong. And it shows you that some packages or some versions are deprecated. You have some unmet peer dependencies. You have some missing peer dependencies, which is really good because you see actually where you stand, but how to solve it. So I imported the project, I installed everything, ran into the wall of errors, and I tried to solve like the errors, the deprecations, the missing peers, and stuff like that. And well, it didn't go very well. And next best thing that I try to do is tackle this problem like application by application, as we have 5 front-end applications. And I spent a whole day trying to go through each missing peer dependency and trying to satisfy it. The good thing here is that PNPM says, like, you have this missing peer dependency, this is what you need to install. So I installed everything. Everything seems to be working. Like, there were no errors in install. But then I ran the app and it didn't work. Let me have a quick cry in the bathroom. And then I said, like, okay, I'm going to sleep. And the next day, I woke up with a clear head, with fresh optimism. And in the start, you might recall that I said that there is no manual slave labor required. Well, there is. Because the best thing that came to my mind, what should I do, is to remove everything, all the logs files, all the node modules, everything, just strip the whole app from the package manager stuff and try to tackle it one by one. So my train of thought, or my way of doing this was find what the application needs to be installed, what dependency, look for the exact version in the old log file, install the exact version, resolve all the problems that PNPM has, and repeat, with occasional cry in the bathroom. This was really not that good, or at least not that enjoyable. But after some time, after one weekend of constant swearing and hard work, I managed the app to work without any problems. Oh, fun fact. There is a constellation of React admin, React router DOM, and React router versions that has no problems at all. But when you try to use a router component in a button, it crashes the whole app. So the next step was to deploy on CircleCI or to run some tests, run a test build, and just make sure that everything works and nothing is broken. And PNPM supports a lot of CI chains, but unfortunately it doesn't support CircleCI. There is no ORP for PNPM. However, this is pretty easily solvable because, as I said in the start, you can just use curl or wget to install the PNPM. So this step didn't include any crying. And after I solved everything in CircleCI, finally I was able to deploy on Heroku. Again, it was not that straightforward. For those of you who doesn't know how Heroku works, when you want to, like, the machine that Heroku creates for your application is completely straight Linux without anything. So you need to find and install build packs that have tools pre-installed for you. So everything is everything your application needs is there in the build time and in the runtime. I found a PNPM build pack. I used it, and it didn't work because there was a problem that Heroku by default, there is a environment variable called node-env that tells you which kind of environment you are running on, and Heroku by default sets this to production. And I didn't want to tinker with that because, you know, you change this one and it fucks up your whole application. So after a quick Google search or quick investigation, I tried to just set the node-env just for the build command I used. Unfortunately, this didn't quite work either, because build packs, how they work on the Heroku is that they wrap your commands with some kind of a monitoring utility that tells Heroku how much of resources your command needed, how much time it took, and stuff like that. And this wrapper didn't work with with the node-env setting in front of the command. It just failed. So I was quite pissed at this moment, but still I wanted to be the hero of the nation, and I tried to push through. And what I did was I looked through the code of the build pack, hence the hackerman. Thanks for thank the world for open source project with you where you can just look through the code. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, maybe I could just alter the build pack to change the envar before running the build command and change it back to what it was after. But then I found out that it doesn't really work because PNPM has this install like you are used to with Yarn, and it has a switch that says -d, and it should only download dev dependencies. So I tried to install, then install -d, and what I found out was that when they say that it installs only dev dependencies, what they truly mean is that it installs the dev dependencies and uninstalls all the rest. Why the fuck would anyone need this? Yeah, read the fucking manual, yeah. Okay, so here comes the crying on the bathroom again, exactly at this point. And so next thing was to fork the build pack, look for it, look into it, try to find out what comes where, and because there are some steps that you need to do to successfully use a build pack. And it took me a while, but I did it. In the end, I have had a successful build of my application with PNPM with all the dependencies. I tried to celebrate, or I started to celebrate, but then the slug size was like 430 megabytes with PNPM, and slug size with Yarn was 428. Hence the final facepalm. So, I mean, I don't want to say that PNPM is not good. That's definitely not what I'm trying to say here. It has some advantages. It has some safety features. The true isolation of your packages in monorepo is really great with PNPM. Or when you try to install something, it communicates really well. What do you need to install? What are your dependencies? What are your peer dependencies and stuff like that? But when you try to migrate something that you like, that's like pile of shit already, it's a terrible nightmare. So please don't do it. If you are building a Node or JavaScript or TypeScript app from the start, I definitely encourage you to use PNPM because, as I said, it has a lot of advantages compared to Yarn or NPM, but please don't try to migrate. So, thanks for your attention. Do you have any questions? Yep.
How come you didn't save any space? How come you didn't save any space? You didn't have any shared dependencies or what?
Pavel, could you hand him the microphone? I don't hear him very well.
He was asking why didn't you save more space?
Why didn't I save more space? That is really good question. which I don't know the answer to. I was expecting that it will save a lot of space because we have a lot of shared dependencies, but there were a lot of dependencies that just magically appeared installed with Yarn, or I don't know if they were installed but Yarn just pulled them out of nowhere. And I had to add or install a lot of additional dependencies for PNPM for packages I had, like the peer dependencies and stuff like that. So maybe that is the reason, but I don't really know.
Okay, thanks. And was it at least quicker?
Yeah, it was quicker. For my application, it took Yarn without node modules around 27 seconds, and it took PNPM around 7 seconds or something like that, which is quite impressive on the paper. But when you have a build chain that uses React scripts for building of the app that was created with Create React app, it takes like 15 minutes to build. So the 20 seconds that I saved is really like nothing in the build time at all.
Yeah, you said there was a constellation of React router, React admin to be working. So
Yeah.
does the libraries need to support PNPM? And if somehow library screws the support of PNPM, is Scrooge also your project?
No, it was not like the problem of PNPM itself. The problem was that we had when we used Yarn, there were multiple dependencies or multiple versions of the libraries installed for some reason, and Yarn just picked some of them to work. And that's when we tried PNPM, we didn't I didn't quite know what were the exact versions that Yarn uses, because it's a little unclear from all the log files and stuff like that. And I needed to find the versions of the React admin, React router, and React router DOM that, or the versions of React router and React router DOM that works with my version of React admin. And this is what I see, it's really unsafe in Yarn, that it just, there is some black magic that you have some history of versions there that is always installed and it just works. And you don't know what really works and why. And with PNPM, I found the problem that Yarn just somehow solved, which makes me really nervous, to be honest. Did I answer the question? Any other questions?
A question from a non-front-end developer here.
Yep.
So your story looks quite scary. And my question is about how often is this situation of yours in the community? Whether there are other people in the internet running into the similar issues, were there any previous experiences, and if yes, then in what way was your situation different than all those other projects?
Yeah, my inspiration for this talk was that I didn't find anything bad about PNPM. So either the people use PNPM for fresh projects, or they don't talk about this kind of stuff. That's why I'm talking about it, so you know. Because like when I said the presentation, everything that I found was on the internet, how PNPM is awesome, how it's disk efficient, how it's fast, and how you save a lot of trouble using PNPM. And I didn't find any like problems with it. And as I said, like these were problems that really had to do with my project, which was really old and badly written. And if I had a project that runs for 2 years and it was really greatly written, I still wouldn't try to migrate to not just to PNPM, but I wouldn't like try to migrate to any other package manager, even if I don't see Yarn as optimal solution.
So would you do it again with your project?
Like what's the project I work on?
Yeah, you would migrate. So would
Yeah.
you do it again after what you went through?
Like what are the next steps?
No, if you would do it again
Yeah.
after what you went through.
If I would do it again, I would split the apps, but using Yarn, because it's like it's not that safe, but it would save me the trouble of trying to make the PNPM work. But definitely, if I started a new project, I would start it with PNPM. So, and that's what we ended up doing. Like we split the front end apps. We have the back end on the Heroku, but it all runs on the legacy Yarn.
Thank you.
Any other question? Nope. Thanks.
So maybe how many plus nights have you spent with this tank?
It was close to 2 weeks. I think that was a little over 2 weeks. So
nightmare.
yeah. But you know, our job is to try to solve problems, and maybe my message, like the ultimate message of this talk, is don't be scared of the fuck ups. Like even if you are in the leading positions, fuck ups are inevitable. Thank you.